Who was its founder? And what combination of power, violence, and opportunity could allow one man's DNA to outcompete millions of others? To understand that,
and that's it. Here, as you can see, my streaming successfully connected. Going back to my browser, YouTube, and here, as you can see, my OBS has been successfully connected.
The Central Asian steppe was less a country than an ocean of grass divided by clans and tribes that lived and died by their horses. In this landscape, lineage was currency. Tribes that lived and died by their horses. In this landscape, lineage was currency. Tribes that lived and died by their horses. In this landscape, lineage was currency. Tribes. Exile made him ruthless, but also taught him the math of survival.
With my YouTube, and here we can see my pre-recorded video showing in YouTube live stream through OBS. Now all you have to need, here you can click on end stream to end your live stream. So here we can see I'm live now.
Victorious chiefs claimed wives and concubines as trophies of power. In war, subjugated families became part of the victor's household, their bloodlines absorbed into the conquerors. For centuries, this cycle of violence and assimilation, their bloodlines absorbed into the conquerors. But Genghis Khan's rise changed the scale completely. When he united the Mongol clans in the early 13th century and forged an empire from Korea to the Caspian Sea, he didn't just rewrite political borders, he reprogrammed the human genome of Asia.
So this is how you can actually go live with pre-recorded video on YouTube.
Inherited not only his empire but his extraordinary opportunity to reproduce. Every city conquered meant more captives, more marriages, more births tied to the name of the great Khan. Yet the story isn't simply a biological triumph. Behind those numbers lie human costs. Conquest, slavery, coercion, and the systemic taking of women as spoils of war. The gene that now links millions of men to a single ancestor also reminds us of the violence embedded in inheritance. Each data point represents countless lives folded into the genealogy of empire. Fertility does not always mean love. Reproduction in history often followed the path of power. To see Genghis Khan's DNA as miracle or curse depends on how one interprets the arithmetic of survival. Back in the lab, scientists double-checked their data. Could coincidence explain such uniformity? Maybe some unknown Central Asian lineage happened to thrive by chance. But geography betrayed the answer. The highest frequency of the haplotype sat precisely in Mongolia, decreasing gradually outward along the same corridors once patrolled by Mongol horsemen. Every control test reinforced the same conclusion. Something or someone originating near the homeland of Genghis Khan had left an imprint so vast it reached from China to Uzbekistan. They began referring to the phenomenon informally as the Genghis Khan effect. In a sense, the steppe had found a new way to conquer, the genetic frontier replacing the battlefield. To grasp the sheer scale, picture modern maps. The combined male population from regions once under Mongol rule, China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and parts of Russia, numbers in the billions. If even 2% of these men share this direct paternal ancestor, it means one individual's Y chromosome spread at a pace of expansion unprecedented in recorded history. Not even Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar left such a measurable trace. Science had turned rumor into quantifiable legacy, and the discoveries echoed through both academic circles and popular imagination. Genghis Khan's immortality was no longer spiritual or symbolic. It was biological. His genetic presence also forces us to rethink how civilization itself multiplies. Every empire from Rome to Britain spread its language, law, and culture. The Mongol Empire spread something more fundamental: genes. Its mobile armies, merchant networks, and systems of tribute facilitated unprecedented human exchange of goods, ideas, and people. Nomads moved artisans. Traders intermarried with settlers, sent hostages as brides. The expansion of Mongol power acted as a global demographic centrifuge, mixing populations that had been isolated for millennia. Through that mixing, some lineages flourished, others vanished, and one, his, rose meteoric. Modern descendants might never know they carry a microscopic relic of that story. A shopkeeper in Samarkand, a farmer near Beijing, a student in Baku, all statistically more likely than not part of the invisible dynasty. For them, the connection doesn't change appearance or fate. It reminds us instead how history hides inside us. Unlike monuments that crumble, DNA records events silently. Every double helix in our cells is a library of survival, and sometimes the authors are conquerors. But the discovery also opens philosophical questions. What does it mean that one of humanity's most violent conquerors also became one of its most prolific ancestors? Are we wired to reward aggression at a genetic level? Or is it coincidence that power, privilege, and fertility have so often walked hand in hand? To look at Genghis Khan's genome is to glimpse the neutral face of evolution, indifferent to morality. Nature doesn't care if a father was tyrant or saint. It only counts who reproduces. Still, there's poetry in knowing that modern science found answers where history paused. Chroniclers recorded his victories, but not his biology. They praised his vision of unity under heaven. None imagined that unity would one day be proven through chromosomes. 8 centuries after his death, computers have drawn the shape of his legacy better than any praise song from the steppe could. Somewhere within its nested spirals, 15 or 16 million lives whisper a single word: continuity. So the camera drifts from the microscope back to the Mongolian plains. Horses graze under sweeping stars. The wind that once carried the scream of battles now carries only silence. Yet within that silence, millions of heartbeats echo his name unconsciously. The world he built is gone. The empire that replaced it forgotten. But inside bodies of strangers separated by culture, race, and distance, the old general's ancestry hums quietly like a mantra of survival. That is the ghost in our blood, the unseen empire that no fire could burn nor time erase, and it is only the beginning of our story. The steppe in the 12th century stretched like an ocean with no water, an endless tide of grass that rippled beneath brutal winds. There were no cities, no walls, only the rhythm of hoofbeats and the smell of smoke from felt tents scattered across horizons. Survival here was not a right. It was a negotiation renewed each dawn. Winter could strip a family bare before the first snow fully touched the ground, and summer could drown whole herds in sudden floods. Hunger erased pride, and pride often replaced mercy. The people of the steppe lived within a world balanced between freedom and famine, where a single drought could turn friend into raider before the moon changed shape. In that environment, community was everything and nothing. A clan could lift you to safety or cast you into oblivion. Allegiance didn't rest on ideology or permanent loyalty. It was about food, safety, and vengeance. Bonds were kept sealed through blood, marriage, or mutual fear. Every horse, every bow, every child counted toward a clan's capacity to survive. A man's value was measured first by the strength of his kin, and second by the promises he could make in battle. Tribes rose and fell as easily as the tides of the Grass Sea. One year's protector could become next year's enemy. Out there, history was written not in ink, but in scars. Temujin was born into this world of shifting loyalties and impatient skies. Around the year 1162, near the Onon River, father Yasuge was a minor chieftain of the Borjigan clan, and his mother Huelun, a woman of uncommon resilience, who had herself been seized from another tribe during a raid. From the very beginning, Temujin's life was a blueprint for the ferocious simplicity of the steppe. Survival through conquest, family through force. His birthright consisted of a few horses, a handful of yurts, and an unbroken view of danger in every direction. As a boy, Temujin was taught to hunt, ride, and kill with the efficiency of necessity. A child here learned early what failure tasted like. It was hunger. When he was 9, his father arranged a marriage alliance with a nearby tribe to secure future political ties, sending the boy to live with his future in-laws. But on a journey home from that arrangement, Yasuge was poisoned by rival Tatars during a feast. His death shattered the fragile web of loyalty holding their clan together. Without paternal leadership, the family was abandoned overnight.
Describes a shot the way you'd sketch it on a storyboard. You name what the viewer should see, where the camera sits,
his family hunted wild
and how the scene
rodents. They stripped
Do that
bark
well,
off trees to
and the
survive
model has
winter.
something solid to follow.
His mother melted
instead
snow
of
to
guessing.
feed her children,
Start
reminding them daily
with
that
the basic
no one,
unit
not
of meaning.
even family,
One shot.
could be trusted
In
to
every
protect
shot,
them.
you want to lock 3 things.
Temujin's
One
world
subject,
shrank to
one
hunger
action,
and vengeance.
and one camera
When
idea.
elder clans refused
Everything
to help,
else,
his
lighting,
concept of
color
loyalty
palette,
twisted into something
lens field.
sharp. He learned that trust without
the style
strength
anchor.
is a death sentence.
analytic,
As he
close
grew,
up,
so did
centered
his
or off-center,
observation of that
shallow
unrelenting
or deep
social
focus.
ecosystem.
just describe what the
Raiding was
camera
not
sees.
crime. It
Then,
was commerce.
The subject and action,
To
who
raid
or
meant
what
to feed
is on
one's
screen,
kin.
and the
To
one
steal
clear
a
thing
bride
they
meant
do.
to forge an alliance.
Keep it simple
War
and
reproduction
believable.
and
After
economy
that comes
were all
camera
the
movement.
same act performed
Maybe
on
static,
different
maybe a slow
stages.
pan or a
When
gentle dolly.
livestock, grain,
Pick
or
one
pasture
movement
ran
only.
short,
Then we have
tribes
lighting
took
and
what they
time.
needed from others.
Soft daylight,
And when
neon
men
at night,
fell in those
or a warm
raids,
desk lamp.
widows and
Choose a
daughters
mood.
became part of victors'
If
camps,
needed,
binding
or
their
no
genes
modern
and grudges
Estes
to
idea
the new tribe.
with
Over centuries, this practice
You'll likely get an
braided
interview
violence
look
and
that fits
kinship
the brief,
together,
but still
until
with
the
open
two were
details,
inseparable.
like time of day,
Every
camera
child
angle,
born
and
carried
wardrobe.
both inheritance and
If
revenge.
those matter, you can
In
always add
that
them.
moral logic,
Now,
victory wasn't
here's a longer
complete
version,
until
using
it
the
left
full
off
anatomy.
the ultimate proof that one's bloodline had triumphed.
1990s
Temujin's
documentary
adolescence was a
style.
litany of betrayals
Medium close-up
that hardened
of an
his
elderly
belief in
Swedish man
self-reliance.
seated in a wood-paneled study.
After his
Shallow
father's
depth of
death,
field,
some relatives enslaved
static
him,
camera,
fitting
warm
him with a
desk lamp
wooden
lighting in the
collar
evening,
to prevent escape.
film grain texture.
The boy slipped
muted
free
palette.
under cover of night.
He says,
hiding for
I still
days
remember
in
when I
icy
was young.
weeds beside
I
a
still
river.
remember when I
That
was young.
moment, change
like
to freedom
yesterday.
became his first conquest.
Yet like
He
another
learned that
lifetime.
strength must come from
avoid
cunning
harsh
as much as
backlight
courage.
and avoid modern furniture.
And any structure of power
This
not
version creates
personally
more
controlled
consistency.
could collapse by
Framing,
dawn.
lighting,
He slowly
and
gathered
palette
followers,
are all pinned down.
outcasts like
The
himself,
camera is fixed,
men owed to
and the
no
constraints
chief,
prevent typical
but drawn
errors.
to a leader who
It still won't
radiated
guarantee a
focus
perfect match.
instead of fury.
But it narrows
His
the model's
loyalty
imagination to
differently.
your vision.
Sharing
Now,
meat after hunts,
about
punishing
sequences.
theft, rewarding
Describing
merit
multiple
before
shots in one
birthright.
prompt is fine when
In
you
a
want a
culture
continuous
obsessed
moment.
with bloodlines,
The rule
this
is simple.
was revolutionary.
Keep each shot as
Each
its own
small
block.
alliance he formed
One camera setup,
rewrote the unwritten
one subject
rule
action,
of the steppe.
one lighting
That
recipe.
strength lay not in
Think in
heritage,
short
but
beats,
in cohesion.
not paragraphs.
His
Here's a
peers
reusable
began
structure.
calling him
Shot
Temujin
1.
the Firm,
A wide
the
establishing
one who could
exterior,
hold together
overcast
what
morning,
others broke.
static camera.
But before
A tram
he could command
passes
others,
left to right.
he had to
Muted
reclaim
palette.
his family's
Shot 2.
stolen honor.
Interior medium shot.
He tracked
Warm
down the
tungsten light.
Taichi Ud clan who had enslaved him, attacked their camp and took their
Slow
listener.
push in.
Unlike
The man
common
opens a letter.
raiders who slaughtered
Shot 3.
captives,
Close
he
up of his
spared them,
hands. Shallow
offering
depth, static
integration
camera.
for obedience. Mercy
The letter
became
shakes
his
slightly.
form of dominance.
Each block is a creative
Every
unit
man
you
spared
can later
owed him a
stitch
life.
together or
Every
let the model
family
play
kept
as a sequence.
intact
If
became
continuity-
his extended network. Through warfare tempered with clemency, Temujin began to substitute fear with allegiance. He was reinventing conquest as diplomacy. Even at this early stage, one can see the seed of his later empire. He understood power as a social technology. To dominate many, a ruler had to weave love and terror so tightly they became indistinguishable. In steppe life, bonds could only be maintained through constant exchange of wives, of livestock, of vengeance. Temujin turned that rhythm into a system, building loyalty by redistributing plunder rather than hoarding it. This created both wealth and obligation, linking warriors directly to him rather than to their tribal elders. Power began, as always, in the family body, but Temujin extended that body until the entire army became its skeleton. Meanwhile, the cultural physics of the steppe continued to define morality. A successful man was expected to produce sons, horses, and territory. Sexual dominance was social proof. To die without heirs meant erasure as surely as death in battle. When Temujin began seizing the possessions of enemy clans, he also took their women, sometimes to consolidate revenge, sometimes to build alliances, but increasingly as tokens of succession. Each marriage expanded his kinship web, transforming desire into strategy. Power, reproduction, and survival merged like intertwined reins. To control one was to ride the others. By the time he reached manhood, Temujin had already witnessed every form of betrayal, hunger and cruelty his world could offer. And he learned one other secret, that order could rise from the chaos of desperation. Where older chiefs saw endless cycles of vengeance, he saw the possibility of unity. The steppe's tribes bound not through fear of winter, but through shared ambition. Yet under that vision still burned the raw law of nature he'd grown up with. Those who cannot protect their kin do not deserve them. That philosophy would remain his compass for life. Temujin's story.
Sometimes you don't want interpretation. You want precision. A shot that feels like it came from a real crew with a real plan. Not the look, the motion, and the mood. So the model aims at one clear aesthetic. Think of your prompt as a one-page shot plan. Start with the intent. What the viewer should notice first, and why the shot exists. Then define the camera setup, the lighting recipe, the grade, the soundscape, and any continuity anchors that should repeat across shots. Here's the structure we'll follow, and I'll say it in a way that sounds natural when spoken. First, shot intent, what the audience should feel or understand in the first few seconds. Next, format and look. Things like duration, shutter feel, digital or film emulation, grain or halation. Then, lens and platform, focal length, prime or zoom, filtration, and the rig you're imagining. Tripod, dolly, shoulder, subject position, depth, haze or fog. Next, grade and palette, how highlights, mid-tone and composition, continuity. Now let's put anticipatory beat as a trainer or seconds total. Shot intent, create a quiet, anticipatory beat as a trainer rides. Human focus with minimal motion. Example B, aerial coastline, IMAX vibe, intent. Make the geography feel grand and serene in one smooth pass. Slow, steady forward drift, lighting and atmosphere. Overcast and bright. Soft top light, a bit of sea spray.
It was an element, continuous and
Example C, 16mm handheld street documentary. Intent, capture an honest street moment with texture and breadth. Format and look, 5 seconds. 16mm film emulation, last reminder, don't rebuild dots.
Until thousands moved as a single breathing creature. It was military design born not from palaces, but from the pulse of survival. Lean, fast, built on trust forged in hardship. Unlike older lords who gave command to relatives, Temujin promoted warriors by merit. Courage became currency. Loyalty law. For the first time in steppe memory, bloodlines stood below competence. In the brief pauses between wars, tribal councils gathered to discuss livestock, marriages, and vengeance. Here, amid fermented milk and the rhythmic beating of drums, alliances were sealed and broken in the space between cups. Temujin learned to treat these gatherings as battlefields of words, every toast a negotiation, every gift a weapon. He gave horses instead of threats, daughters instead of insults. People accepted his generosity because they saw that his camp never went hungry. The spoils he distributed ensured that no follower remained poor, and gratitude slowly replaced tradition as glue binding his tribe. But not everyone welcomed his rise. Old nobles saw in him a thief of heritage, a man without ancient title daring to speak of unity. To them he was bastard ambition, and ambition frightened men whose power rested on inheritance. Several times they tried to cut him down through ambushes and betrayal. Once an ambush left him wounded, crawling beneath the moon with an arrow through his neck. He survived by cauterizing the wound with the blade of his own knife, breathing through sparks and pain. His followers took that survival as omen. Even the steppe itself could not kill him. Stories grew faster than enemies could contain them. As the tribes clashed and converged, the steppes became laboratory for natural selection accelerated by politics. The ruthless secured resources, the cunning secured loyalty, and the fruitful secured continuity. Through that lens, the Mongol plain functioned like a living experiment in human evolution. Those who could not adapt vanished into smoke. In this arena where death equaled silence, lineage was not just a record of the past, but a strategy for future victory. Marriage alliances extended armies as effectively as conquests did. The idea that blood could rule beyond death flourished, and Temujin absorbed it like scripture. He began to view kinship as empire, waiting to be born inside the wombs of future generations. The call for unity among tribes, not rhetoric, it was necessity. The Chinese to the southeast saw the steppes as a resource to exploit, buying loyalty with silk and wine, hiring one clan to fight another. Temujin realized that as long as Mongols stayed divided, they were weapons for others to use. Unifying them required more than charisma. It demanded faith in something larger. So he began preaching an almost religious doctrine, that the eternal blue sky had chosen him to bring order where chaos reigned. The message worked. Destiny replaced doubt for a people who endured cycles of hunger and revenge. Believing that their hardship gave them reason to follow. Temujin's transformation into Genghis Khan came gradually, like dawn sneaking over mountains before people noticed the light. Victories multiplied. Kyrgyz, Merkits, Tatars all fell in turn. Each conquest stitched another piece of the steppe into his fabric. Rather than annihilate enemies completely, he absorbed survivors, adding their warriors and women into his camp. The technique turned opposition into fuel. Every tribe destroyed